All right. Well, thank you, Russ. We really appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Bryon Ellington, Chief Learning Officer for eXp Realty. Hey, I've got a really great special pair of guests for you today, not just one, but two. But before we get to that, I wanted to share with you about some upcoming exciting things from eXp University. August 20th, we are restarting Kickstart, our 6-week-long program. Please join us for that. It's going to be once a week, each week on Tuesday, starting August 20th. We're going to take you through and help you build your business. Speaking of helping you in these times, Winning Buyers is out for you today. Go take a look at that. That's our piece that we did last March, and we've been updating it for everything NAR settlement related. Please, please, please go familiarize yourself with that. We are about 2 weeks away from the turnover, 1 week away from the turnover on August 17th with NAR, where we'll all be going by the new rules. So we want to make sure you're ready for that. Also, too, wanted to share with you some of the results. We've been talking about FastCap, the new program that we've been piloting. We are now done with the pilot, and we are editing, and we'll be putting that out soon for about 100 agents reporting, in a 6-week period for FastCap. We did 9,000 real talks, what we call real estate conversations, 580 appointments, again, a 6-week period, and 200 agreements signed, listing and buyer agreements. So we're really excited. And by the way, FastCap pilot agents, we're really proud of what you did. Thank you so much for going through that experience with us. For everybody else, we are coming at you really soon with FastCap. So stay tuned for more on that. One last thing, team leaders, August 21st, mark your calendar. It's the next team mastery call. We've got a good one with Thomas Calla and Colby and Michael Culbertson, who are going to come on and talk about lead conversion for team leaders. So that's August 21st, 12 p.m. Central. Please join us. Check your inbox. The invite's in there. All right. Without further ado, I'm really excited. So today we are joined by Chris Craddock and David Mount of the Redux Group with eXp. They are in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. So Chris and David, hey, how are you guys?
Hey, glad to be here.
Doing great. Thanks, Bryon.
Well, we're glad to have you both. So we were talking together, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and you guys started talking about how you're rethinking your buyer value proposition for your 56 agent team, and that you're networking with some other team leaders who are doing it. And I asked, well, would you come on and share a little bit about that? But before we get there, tell us a little bit about your team there, the Redux Group.
Sure, I'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, we started in the DMV area. The team kind of was born out of, I was a pastor for the whole first half of my adult life and made no money, flipped houses to kind of make ends meet, in between like every odd job I could find to make ends meet. And then just saw how that gave way to what we were doing, just like getting a real estate license to sell my own short sales. And what I'd always seen was, Zig Ziglar says you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life. And, we ended up starting the Redux Group. David actually started out as our first buyer's agent who I still remember that infamous Starbucks meeting where, David had some goals and dreams, and I didn't know how it was all going to work out, but we both trusted each other, liked each other. And now, we're doing some massive things together, and it's just been super, super fun. And so we've grown now. We've expanded down to Richmond, up to Baltimore, Delaware, PA, and then the whole DMV area, DC, Virginia, Maryland. And it has just been so fun.
Yeah. And it seems to be working out really well for you guys. You've done a great job. And we were talking, and what's interesting is you don't really focus on buyers per se. You focus on listings, and the buyers come. Can you share a little bit about how your team generates your leads first off?
Sure. Well, we do have a partnership, a Zillow Flex agreement. So I want to make sure that like total transparency there. But with that, David, what's the percentage? It's like about 10% of our
Yeah, a little bit less than 10% of our leads come from Zillow Flex.
Okay. So what we do is we partner with wholesalers, fix and flippers, other investors that, when they find deals that maybe aren't good enough for them to flip, they had been seeing it as garbage. And for us, we're like, I don't see a listing as garbage. I think a listing's awesome. Let's figure something out here. And so we partner with investors locally, and then we also go after distressed, or what we call quick sale clients, because sometimes people inherit a property. It's not distressed, but they just if there's 5 siblings, they don't want to hold on to this property together, so they want to get rid of it in the most efficient way possible. And so we go after that. But oftentimes these properties, maybe they are up for foreclosure, maybe whatever it is, they need work. And so when we take these properties on, most people tend to not want to fix them up just because they want ease and convenience, right? Just like somebody that trades in a car knows they're going to take a little bit less at a dealership than if they were to fix up a property. And so we put it on the market as is, because that's usually what the sellers typically would want. And maybe it needs 50 grand worth of work, and we listing it 50 grand under what the fixed up value would be, or the Zillow price was, or 75 grand under the Zillow price. And so we get massive amount of phone calls, massive people show up at open houses, and it just builds our buyer business through taking these listings and getting them out there, and really marketing the listings brings buyers as well.
Yeah, and those are, we talked about it a little bit. Those are a different kind of buyer than what you're used to with a Zillow Flex account, for example, right? And that's going to lead to different types of conversations, especially as we go into this new normal of now needing the buyer representation agreement. And David, you and I were talking about this. Let's talk about your Zillow Flex clientele that's coming in. How are you guys gearing up to deal with that with your agents? Are you guys going on for a full-on buyer consultation, or are you doing something different?
We're doing something different. So right from the first call with Zillow Flex, right, we're going through the script that Zillow has for us. We're setting the appointment. We're asking about other locations. We're asking about their motivation, what piqued their interest about that property. And then we're getting that schedule for them and keeping it as frictionless as possible. What we'll do after that is reach out to the listing agent for whatever property they wanted to see, find out what the compensation is being offered, and then we're going to make another call to that buyer to say, this is what the agent's already offering. The industry has changed. You may have heard, may have seen the news. There's new rules. So technically I need to have an agreement before I can show you any properties. But the good news is the seller's offering this. And so I won't charge you anything extra above what the seller's offering for this property. So I'm going to send you an agreement. Again, it's just required. So I'll send you that through .loop. You'll get an email. If you could just make sure to review that and sign it before we go into the property, I would appreciate it. Again, we just can't see the property until that's signed. So if you have any questions about it, give me a call. But I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 2 p.m. or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And we talked about this. It's interesting. And there's no right or wrong answer. Got to know your customer, and you got to know your value and your ability to close the deal. The way that you're setting that up is kind of perfect with the new EXP forms that we put out, because they are dead simple. They are really easy to understand. If you were trying to do this with very complicated board forms or MLS or state promulgated forms, that might be entirely different. But because we have those easy ones, it gives you this option. Now, there's a lot of agents who you mentioned the Zillow scripting, the ALM, I think is probably what you're referring to, the appointment location motivation, right? And what we've talked about with other agents is they've kind of done the ALMC, right? Appointment location motivation. Okay, now that I've set the appointment, I know you're free at Tuesday at 2, so now I'm going to close for the consultation. Why don't you meet me at Starbucks just prior to that? No right or wrong answer. You're doing what you feel your customers really want, and you're setting the appointment, you're getting everything set up, and then you're going and finding out what the seller compensation on these things are going to be, so that you can have that conversation. Just one word of advice for everybody out there, not you guys, but everybody out there: whatever you put in that buyer rep agreement is what you're going to be compensated. So just make sure that the way that these guys are doing it is you're doing your property forms, I believe you said, for a single day with those Zillow folks that are coming in, the Zillow Flex buyers. Is that right?
Yeah, we're giving options. So the agents can do a single day. They can do it for a single property. We're leaving that up to the agent on a case-by-case basis, but giving them the full latitude of what EXP allows for, to make it as frictionless as possible to get to that first meeting. And then once they're at that first meeting and showing a house, we're training our agents to distinguish themselves by showing value. It's not just opening the door and letting them in, there's a lot more things that we can talk through. For example, if you know it's a hot property and there's going to be multiple offers, you could tell your buyer, hey, this is a really popular property. It looks like there's a lot of showings on the property. They actually have 2 offers already. If you really like this one, here are some things that we might want to consider when we're writing an offer. What you're communicating is you've been there before, you've done that, you've done your homework, you're bringing additional information that they cannot find on Zillow, they cannot find anywhere else, because you've talked to the listing agent or maybe had some message exchange over text or email and gotten more information. And then you're communicating, in situations like this is what we need to think through. Meaning, I've done this before, you can trust me, like let's walk through this together. So you're communicating value without saying, I've sold 1 million homes or whatever the case may be, right? It's not on the nose, but you're implying and showing them and demonstrating to them that you have value and that you've done this before and you can guide them through in a confident manner.
And part of that is knowing your flash role. So there's a book called Flip the Script that we love, we love it. And one of the things he talks about is that flash role, that 30 seconds to show that you're an expert, right? And how do you create the flash role? Well, one of the exercises we have our team do is I love phrasing it like this, right? 50 reasons why somebody would be an idiot not to work with you, right? Not like 50 reasons why somebody should work with you. Let's put an emotion behind it. Let's make it extreme, right? Why would they be an idiot not to work with you? And the interesting thing is you can usually go through like 5, maybe a good agent can get through 10, and then it starts getting harder, right? You start getting on Google, like what is good value? But the interesting thing is by the time you get to 50, your chest pops out, your chin goes up, you walk with swagger, right? And oftentimes we say that sales is just leadership, right? And the best way to lead people, leadership is usually caught more than taught. And if you don't believe it, it's very hard to get somebody else to believe it, to transfer that value proposition, that leadership, that confidence onto them. So if you can start speaking with confidence, then you have your flash role, right? These are the things that we're going to do differently, right? Can you say, hey, our team every year we get people that chooses our offer over one where somebody offered more money for it because of what we know how to do when we put together an offer package, right? We know agents. So when you're offering against 5 different other offers, we have a great reputation in the area. We are able to get agents to choose our offer over other offers. We also have friendships with agents where they'll tell us, the behind the scenes reasons why a seller is going to take one offer rather than another, so we can craft a compelling offer for you. So like, as you just go down that rabbit hole and help buyers recognize that there is something different about you versus anybody else, then they really are going to feel like they're an idiot if they work with anybody other than you. So like, part of that is the process as well.
And I really like that, because what we're asking here is for them to commit to us. And in such an early days stage of the relationship, you better be able to differentiate yourself very quickly in their eyes. And you talked about one way of differentiation, which was the knowing your stuff. I used to have a friend who would talk about his waiter pitch. Whenever he'd go to tour a home, he was walking and immediately pointing out what was standard, what was builder upgrades for that particular community. And he was pointing out materials. Oh, that flooring is such and such, and it has really high durability. Oh, the HVAC system outside is blah, blah, blah. And I noticed that it was a 2013, so we should be thinking about that. He was just pointing out thing after thing after thing. And they were just blown away by his expertise about the area, which, by the way, especially newer agents, this is why you want to go preview homes. This is why you want to keep an eye on inventory and make sure that you understand, especially in your geo area, the properties. Chris, you mentioned something else too about being able to distinguish yourself. Do you use metrics in talking about, the percentage of your offers that get accepted, or, what percent under market value you're able to typically get for your buyers? Or are you guys there yet?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on who we're talking to as well, like how deep into it you go. Like, so I'm a big disc profile person. If you're talking to a high D, You're definitely going to want to just talk about the fact that you're going to get it done. You're going to get it done faster. And, kind of almost the Donald Trump, we're great, we're going to get it done, like all of that kind of thing, but, for the high I, just that you're in it with them. So you're wanting to read the room, right? High S, this is our process. High C, you can get into the nitty gritty of the details about all of that. But that typically is part of, the response in your flash roll is if you can read the room, you can win there, right? It's just really important to understand what somebody is looking for. And, Bryon, me and David were talking about this before we came on. The big problem with a lot of agents is they will speak to, the golden rule. They will give people what they would want. But if I'm a high D, which I am a high D and I'm a high I on the disc profile, so I want it done fast and I want to do it with my friends, with people that I like. If you start talking to me like I'm a high C, which you start getting into the details, into the weeds, into, what kind of screws were used in the frame of the house, man, you've lost me, right? And so that's where it's really important to speak to people the way they want to be spoken to.
Yeah, and I'll add too, Bryon, we rely on storytelling heavily, right? So with our flash roll, sometimes we'll just say, oh yeah, we just helped a buyer purchase a property. There were 10 offers on this one. And because I knew that agent, I got the inside scoop and I was able to give my buyer, hey, if you want this one, this is what it takes to win. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but this did just happen recently for a client of mine. And this is, what I can essentially bring to the table. So storytelling is just so powerful. It evokes the emotion. It's less, the intellect and more the emotion of, okay, I trust you. I believe you. And now like whatever you say, like when you're advising a buyer on what to do to win a multiple offer situation and they tell you whatever you say, that's a really good place to be. And that's a place where, you have trust and you have to steward that trust well, because you got to look out for best interests, right? We want them to win the offer without having to give away too much. And so that's also what we tell our buyers is in the buyer consultation, I want you to win in that multiple offer situation, but I do not want you to overpay. I want to just edge out that next offer without overdoing it to where you're paying $30,000 more than the next person and waiving all your contingencies when there was just one other offer that was below list price with all the contingencies. Like I want to try to protect you from overpaying and from giving away more than you need to.
And with that, because we have a big team, we always, stories sell. So we say my story is your story because of our group. But here's the cool part about being a part of EXP is, we are in the same network. We're in the same organization with, every single person that comes in has thousands of people in their organization. And so my story is, say, Lars Hedenborg's story, right? Like my story is like somebody else in my organization's story as well. And so we're able to say, when we're talking let me tell you about what we just did, what our group just did, what our organization just did. So you don't, if you're a newer agent and maybe you've only worked with 5 people and you don't have all the stories, the fun thing is my story is David's story and David's story is my story.
That's right. And if you are a newer agent, be sure you've got a great relationship with your state broker so that you can ask them for those kinds of stats. Your sponsor, if you're a mentee, talk with your mentor, understand EXP in your area and leverage those stats for your listing presentations, for your buyer consultations, and for your marketing too. Guys, we were talking about this concept of a 3-tier buyer value proposition, right? And none of us are going to look good in orange jumpsuits. So we're not going to talk about specific commission percentages or dollar amounts, right? But you have a strategy in the way that you're thinking about this in terms of your tiering. So before we jump in and talk about like some of the value that goes into that value proposition, can you talk broadly about the structure and how you're thinking about like your lower tier package versus your higher tier package?
Absolutely. And we're really starting to mirror in our buyer presentation, and we're still building this. We're mirroring in our buyer presentation what we're already doing in our listing presentation. We offer 3 tiers for our listing service, and they come with different things, right? So it's going to have different value The one tier up is going to have everything in the first tier plus these additional things. The third tier is going to have everything in the first two tiers plus some additional things and at a different compensation. So our goal is to really serve the buyer in the best way possible. And we're going to do that by giving them multiple options. Now, the lowest tier that we're considering solidifying and rolling out to our team may have some kind of fee on it or percentage with a retainer fee. So there may be an upfront cost, an upfront check that a buyer would have to write upfront. So the agent is essentially getting some certainty that even if this person doesn't close, there's at least some compensation that's being offered and collected for that service. And then,
And I should say about that, just really quickly before we keep going, because there's going to be some agents who hear that and go, "Ooh, I didn't know I could do that." And the answer is maybe you can, maybe you can't. Make sure you talk with your state broker about what's allowed in your area before you start trying to do things like this. But go on. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be the lowest tier. On the highest tier, what we're considering doing is offering potentially paying for a buyer's pre-inspection on a home that they want to write an offer on. So in our market, for example, I'm licensed in Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. And when I'm writing an offer on a property, sometimes it lists on a Thursday and then there's tons of showings and the listing agent will set an offer deadline for Monday at 2 p.m., for example. That gives like Friday, Saturday, Sunday to be able to potentially do a home inspection that allows us to then make a contingency free or an offer on Monday without an inspection contingency because we've already done it. But usually the buyer has to pay for that out of pocket themselves. At this higher tier, maybe we'll pay for it for them, up to one, maybe two of those, because in our market it's very, very competitive. And so that can be a bigger value for people if they would rather have the certainty that I'll pay on the back end, but I'd rather not pay up front. And again, this may or may not be needed in somebody else's market, but it also might be pretty important. So that would be the highest tier. And on the mid tier, one of our main value propositions is going to be off-market properties. And that's one of the things that I love about what eXp has built with the office exclusives on Zenlist. So that's a big piece of it. And our team is very, very committed to searching for off-market properties in literally dozens of ways, with Zenlist and office exclusives being one of them.
And and that's one of the biggest keys that we recognized as far as growing our team is if you can understand that sellers, when you meet with them, they want to know that you have a buyer for their property, right? Just being like, oh, I'll put it out there, we'll bring buyers. No. We learned this when I had a friend where I lost a listing many years ago to some random agent that said, oh, I've got a buyer for your property. And so they went with this other agent because it was a powerful marketing tool, right? Well, the buyer didn't happen to want to buy their property. So then they went on the market, but they went with the other person because of that. So sellers want to know you have buyers, and buyers want to know that you have off-market properties, right? What do you have that I can't find on Zillow, that I can't find on Redfin, that I can't find on Realtor.com, right? Like, what are the things that you have that I don't? And so when you can offer that, you have a thing of value that is just so much higher than just about anybody else. And that's one of the things that I love that Leo brought to eXp was just kind of seeing this off-market exclusive option where, and I really do think that as we adopt, this is really part of our responsibility to grow our company that we all own through stock, right? As we adopt this, off-market opportunity here with, Zenlist, we put more onto it, then there'll be more, right? If you build it, they will come. And then we get more opportunities, and more opportunities gives us more value to our buyers and sellers, which gives us more opportunities, right? And so it's this self-perpetuating cycle that I really do hope more of us in our company will take advantage of.
Yeah, no kidding. And for those of you, if you're not familiar, if you go into the EXP's platform and look up EXP exclusives, we offer an off-market listing tool through Zenlist for all EXP agents to be able to put off-market listings on there. Could be that the seller is a luxury seller, doesn't want people traipsing through their home. Could be a builder, inventory is not yet done. Whatever the case might be, if you've got an off-market listing, put it on EXP exclusives. And as important, probably even more important, is even if you don't have an off-market listing, you need to go get familiar with EXP exclusives. This is a major differentiator for you, as Chris is saying, because you can offer buyers properties that other agents with other firms simply can't because of EXP exclusives. So understand that talk track, be able to talk to it in your buyer consultations and in your initial calls with buyers that you haven't met before. You also talked about some of the things in there, and I want to kind of jump in. When you're talking about your buyer value proposition, just in general. So obviously, because of the fact that you guys are off-market listing specialists, right? You're looking for those distressed sellers. That's a cool thing that you bring to the table. Now, not everybody specializes in that. But I'll say this too, because you talked about how your listings tend to generate a ton of buyers. We as agents, especially when it's a tight inventory market and listings sell pretty quickly, we tend to think maybe I'll quote unquote save on my listing marketing. I think that's completely wrong-headed. I think even if your listing goes under contract, pending is not the same as sold. And you have a fiduciary obligation to your seller to continue to market that property. You also have an obligation to your business to continue to market that property as well and get as many buyers as possible. But I want to dig in just a little bit. If I'm a buyer and I'm hesitant to sign your buyer rep agreement, right? What's the value proposition? What's compelling? You mentioned a few things, but go a little further. Why would I want to sign with you guys versus somebody else?
David, do you want to hit it or you want me to hit it?
Go for it, Chris. I'll layer on.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're talking, Bryon, the reality is we need to see this conversation like we see listings, right? Because when you sit down at the kitchen table with somebody for a listing appointment, you are discussing why they should hire you. In the past, and I'll just be honest, a lot of buyer agents that I've talked to, their value proposition is, maybe you probably like me and I'm free. Somebody else pays for it, right? Like that's it. And I've heard it. And honestly, it wasn't a bad pitch, right? It wasn't, but that's not the new pitch and it doesn't work anymore. And so what I want to hear what they're looking for, but here's what I would just say if we're just in a vacuum without me asking questions to find out a little bit more about your specific, point of view and desires. I would just say, hey, look, Bryon, the reality is this house that we're discussing right now, there's going to be multiple offers on this house. And the reality is we have won many, many times with multiple offers where our offer is not even the highest in cash. And the reason why is because we know how to craft an offer that sellers are looking for. We have a great reputation in the area where people know that we're going to get to the closing table because they trust our reputation. We know how to find the things that sellers are looking for to help you win. And if this ends up not being the house that you decide to work with, here's what else we know how to do. We find buyers off-market opportunities all the time, properties that you will not find anywhere else on the MLS because they're just not out there. Like this house that you called us on, at one point in time, they were thinking about selling before they went on the market. And you probably could have bought it at a price way less than whoever wins this is going to have to buy it in multiple offers. And we're able to find properties like that for you. And we do it in multiple ways. But the reality is, if you work with us, we are going to help you get the best value at the best price. And we're going to help you when other people are trying like maybe 5, 6, 7 times and not winning on these multiple offer options. And we're going to get you to the finish line in the home of your dreams.
Which is exactly what they want. David, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say it really depends at what stage they're bringing up that hesitation. If it's over the phone and you've only had one previous conversation, that's a one story. If it's after an hour and a half long buyer consultation, that's another story, right? If they're hesitant after that hour and a half, you've missed the mark on either understanding what their needs are or communicating your value proposition up to that point for that whole hour. So if it's that point, then you've already probably lost, and there's probably not a way to recover it. But I would probably ask, oh, okay, like that totally makes sense. Sounds like, you're thinking we may not be a good fit. Is that what you're thinking? Be okay just being direct about it. And if they're like, yeah, I don't think we're a good fit, I'd say, okay, yeah, you know what, just out of curiosity, what makes you think that? And just ask the question, and hopefully they'll reveal it to you, and then you can address it, right? But if it's after that long buyer consultation, you want them in the palm of your hand saying, where do I sign? Like, this all sounds great. You want to educate them such that they know exactly what the costs are from contract to close. They should know how many homes they should expect to see before they're going to write an offer. They should know that you have strategies in the event there's a multiple offer situation. They should know how you're going to negotiate if there's only one offer on the table. Are you going to immediately go with a lower price? Are you going to try to get them seller subsidy to cover their closing costs? Like, you should be talking about those things, and maybe even incorporating some guarantees. We have a guarantee for our buyers that we call our peace of mind guarantee. So if you're layering all that on there and they're not pretty willing to say, yeah, just tell me what the next steps are, then you've missed the mark on the buyer consultation.
Yeah. And if you're at a loss as to how all of this goes, or if you just want to brush up because it's been a while since you've done a great buyer consultation, Winning Buyers from EXP University is out there. The playlist from BAM for the past several weeks, where we've had tons of people coming on talking about this, are out there. Leverage your state broker, get their stats on your buyer acceptance rates and things of that nature, so that you've got some really great ammunition to come into this conversation. Because really, at the end of the day, what you guys are saying is do a great needs analysis, understand what they're trying to go and do, and then match your value to that. And all of that is in the Winning Buyers training that we put out. All right, Chris and David, thanks so much for being on. We really appreciate you very much and all that you do for us. And thanks for coming on and sharing your hard-won wisdom. And for all of you out there, thank you for tuning in. We're going to turn it back over to Russ, and we'll see you next week.